Serial killers do on a small scale what governments do on a large one. They are a product of the times, and these are bloodthirsty times. People in this day and age are brainwashed and programmed like a computer at being nothing more than puppets. This nation, this country is founded in violence. Violent delights tend to have violent ends. Madness is something rare in individuals, but in groups, people, and ages, it is a rule. Killing is killing, whether done for duty, profit, or fun. Men murdered themselves into this democracy.
People want to buy that insanity. They don't want the truth. They want fear. They want violence. They want sex and drugs and guns. They want that. That's what they want.
Faction number one is a successful photographer. Please welcome Rodney Alcala. Rod, welcome.
Well, I like bananas, so I'll take one.
Number one. That's your number one. All right.
Magical thinking. Magical thinking is an irrational belief that one can bring about a circumstance by thinking about it or wishing for it.
Reporters an envelope as he walked by them in the hall on the way into court. Inside was a form letter, apparently from the committee to re-elect President Nixon, since the first family's picture was on the front of it, and a thank you for campaign effort message inside, along with the mimeographed signatures of the president and his family. Kemper's Santa Cruz address was on the envelope. It bore a Washington postmark dated April 26th, 2 days after Kemper was arrested in Pueblo, Colorado. Kemper's attorney could not shed much light on this rather strange development.
It was mailed to him. Apparently it came yesterday.
Did he have an active role in the campaign? No?
He voted against Mr. Nixon.
Against Mr. Nixon?
That's what he told me.
And how would he get this letter?
You have to ask the committee to re-elect the president.
Oh, he was kind of an odd man. He didn't say much. He seemed like kind of a mama's boy. I always was kind of afraid of him, actually. He scared me a lot, and I heard him and his mother argue quite a bit, all the time. He was too quiet sometimes, and he was always taking things, back and forth. Guns. He had guns that I saw. I guess that's why I thought he was strange. They scared me.
It's sad what happened to him. And that I could do something like that to somebody. All the victims, all of them. And you're talking about a lot of them, a lot. A lot of lives just gone right down the tubes because of me. In one way or another. And it's not a good feeling, it's not a pleasant feeling. I'm not proud of anything I've done. And the worst thing is I don't understand why. I don't understand why.
Yes.
What are you doing now? What's happening? What are you doing now? Why are you holding your penis? Art, what's happening?
Mom.
What's happening? What is Mommy doing?
Mom's got me.
Mom has got you now? What is she doing?
Playing with me.
Okay, and what's happening?
She started kissing me.
And what's happening? Why are you crying, Art?
It hurts.
What hurts, Art?
She squeezed me.
And What do you say to him? What do you say to him?
No.
What do you
Stop.
say?
Stop. No.
What did your mother do?
My mother gave me oral sex. She performed oral sex on me for several years. Then when I was 14 years old, I had intercourse, and I ran away. I put a note on my pillow in my bedroom. I'm going to Syracuse, and I turned around and went to Canada. I just didn't want to go home.
Because you were being abused?
Yes, sir, I was.
Your mom has obviously denied that anything like that happened.
Everyone would. Can you picture what would happen to a person if she admitted she did shit like that to me?
I mean, they've said, you know, Asgard the Shawcrest say, well, there was no sexual abuse when you were younger.
How they know? I know, because I was there. I know what I had to go through.
Well, they say they checked all the medical records.
I didn't have medical records when my mother was abusing me. You think my mother took me to a doctor because she was giving me oral sex? That's bullshit.
If he was lying and he hadn't been sexually abused, that would confound you.
It would indeed. It's almost inconceivable that he was not sexually abused.
During the trial, the defense also argued that Shawcross had been brutalized by his experiences as a soldier in Vietnam.
What happened in Vietnam?
A lot of things happened in Vietnam. Yeah, I went to Vietnam as a weapons specialist. And I had my own bunker and just outside of Con Tum, Vietnam, Central Highlands. And I see a woman in her 30s coming down this hill carrying 2 AKs on this side and 2 AKs on this side, barrel down. So I reach over my shoulder like this, right behind my neck, and I pull out a brand new machete. When she backed out, I come up behind her and took her head right there. It took a couple of hits, but the head came off. She body dropped to the ground, you just bled out. I split the body in half. Opened up a pouch and I had some C4, plastic explosives, lit a cigarette, just touched it and it started lit up like a miniature sun. And I just laid the flesh up on top of that stick, right? And I bit into the flesh itself, you know, just staring at her eyes, and she urinated and defecated on herself. And she talked to me in broken English, so she told me everything I wanted to know. I go in, I reported in, saluted the colonel, and he gets up and he says, "You're one sick son of a bitch, but I love you. But I can't remember nobody's name in Vietnam," and that messes me up.
War often forms very close relationships. You didn't form friendships with anyone out there?
No.
You don't remember anyone's name?
No.
How long were you there for?
13 months.
What was your official position in Vietnam?
I was a specialist, weapons specialist. Some missions in Vietnam, they tell you to go out, you know, seek and destroy. You destroy everything that's in that general area. Everything that's alive. It could be man, woman, child, pigs, chickens, everything. I got to liking going out and kill the enemy. We had one patrol, we went out, and that was between Polycline and Con Tum, where near the Con Tum River, we came across 2 females waist deep in the water. They looked like they were taking a bath. One of the GIs, one of the point men, walked out into the water like he was going to have some fun. One of the girls reached down below the water line. She had a knife that had one wiggle blades on it, and just sliced the guy from his groin to his throat. Me and another man, I had a machine gun, M60. Another guy had an M16, and I stitched the girl right across her thighs and up through here. When I came out of Vietnam, I left on October 31st, Halloween Day. Flew to Japan, then to Anchorage, Alaska, then Seattle, Washington, Chicago, Detroit, Syracuse, back to Watertown, New York. Then I had a problem adjusting. The Army taught you how to kill, didn't teach you how to stop, or the desire to do so. I would wake up in the night, somebody would touch me, and I'd beat him up. You know, my wife at that time, who was a blonde, blue-eyed girl, I gave her 2 black eyes just for touching.
And it appears that he made some sort of a confession. It wasn't a airtight confession. He said something to the effect either I could have done it or I might have done it.
What did you do to young Karen Hill?
I ain't saying. I told you I wouldn't talk about that. I wasn't talking about anything that happened in Watertown.
Why not?
Because I make that, I'm not talking about anybody in Watertown. You can either take it or leave it.
Chicago police may have passed over crucial clues in the mass murder investigation. Details on these stories and others next on Eyewitness News.
A $6 million lawsuit has been filed against mass murder suspect John Gacy. Parents of slain teenager John Butkovich hope to be awarded proceeds from any publications about the Gacy case. They also want any funds from the alleged killer's contracting firm. Tonight, Jay Levine continues his close-up look at the Gacy case and how police may have overlooked evidence that could have prevented the murder spree.
A careful examination of police and other official documents by Eyewitness News reveals that John Gacy came into contact with authorities more than half a dozen times, allegedly involved in crimes ranging from kidnapping to rape and assault. His name came up in connection with missing persons. He was even linked to a theft committed with the car of one of his victims. These police contacts came not with unrelated, relatively unsophisticated suburban departments, but with one of the biggest, best equipped and trained departments in the world. Even so, using the same combination of bluff and bluster with which he talked his way into being photographed with dignitaries, Gacy managed to talk his way out of each and every beef. Said one former employee, he had a way of getting what he wanted. He was a master con man.
And he was good. I mean, he got whatever he wanted, you know. He did what he had to do to get what he wanted. That was his philosophy.
In August of 1975, Johnny Butkovich's car was found abandoned at Lawrence and Sheridan. The 18-year-old's jacket, wallet, and keys inside. The last time his parents saw him, he was leaving to confront John Gacy about some back pay.
And this youth police, he told me, he talked with the Gacy refused to talk to him. And he should know right away something wrong. If Gacy don't want to talk to him, something wrong right there.
Area 6 youth officers considered Butkovich a runaway. Youth Division officers from Areas 5 and 6 were out looking for John Gacy again 5 months later. Responding to reports of a man named John cruising the uptown area picking up young boys, they followed him for over a month, questioned youths going in and out of his Norwood Park Township home, and came up empty. Later that year, Taft High School senior Greg Godzik disappeared just after telling his girlfriend that 1976 had been the best year of his life. His mother told Area 5 youth officers to check out the man Greg had worked for, John Gacy, and then called Gacy herself.
I talked to him. I called him up to find out if my Gregory called. And he said he did, and that he was going to come to work. And I said, well, did he ever come? He says, no. And I says, how do you know it was Gregory? And he says, because he had him on his tape, you know. And I asked him if he could play it back. He said, no, he erased it, so I wouldn't know.
Did you ever tell the police about your conversation with John Gacy?
Yes, I'm sure I did.
Police would have had no way of tying Gacy to a 19-year-old who disappeared barely a month later, except we've learned that this time he got careless, taking and then selling John Zick's 1971 Plymouth Satellite to Mike Rossi. Gacy and Rossi, other employees say, were like father and son. In December, Rossi was brought to the house on Summerdale to point out the location of holes he admitted digging in the crawl space. He claims to know nothing about the bodies. It was Rossi's failing to pay for a tank full of gas in September of 1977 that brought police to Gacy's home once again. He and Rossi straightened out the beef about the gas, and in the process, convinced police to close the Zick missing person file. This letter was sent to Zick's parents. Dear Mr. and Mrs. Zick, I was unable to locate your son, but I did learn that he sold his auto in February of 1977 and told the buyer that he needed the money to leave town. But no one seems to be able to explain why, if Zick needed money, he left behind 2 paychecks, all his possessions, and even bought new license plates for the car the day he disappeared. Had Chicago police bothered to check, as we did, the original title to Zick's car, note the signature, and compared it to the title transfer filed when the car was allegedly sold by Zick to Gacy and Rossi, again note Zick's signature, it would have been obvious to them that something was fishy. John Zick did not sign the second time, 18 days after he was reported missing. He was undoubtedly already dead. Area 6 homicide sex officers in the state's attorney's office also took Gacy's word against that of the teenager he allegedly abducted at gunpoint near Lawrence and Western in December. During that assault, the 19-year-old youth tells me, Gacy bragged of having killed others. He claims he told all this to police.
In light of
Jeff Rignall told a similar story 3 months later. He succeeded in having Gacy arrested last summer, but it was while that case was pending, Gacy free on bond, that Des Plaines teenager Rob Peace disappeared and set in motion the chain of events that led to the gruesome discovery of bodies in Gacy's basement.
Police not does good job for my son, not for the rest of those kids. If they follow those things, investigation, maybe Johnny only be dead. Only Johnny, maybe rest will be unalive. Rest of them have to be dead.
We requested an interview with Chicago Police Superintendent James O'Grady, a man who's known to be quite upset about police handling of the Gacy case. The request was denied. O'Grady said any comment on his part would be improper and in violation of a gag order imposed by a circuit court judge. In the meantime, we've also learned that 3 former Gacy associates are still under investigation for their involvement in or knowledge of the assaults and murders. One of them, Mike Rossi, will be ordered to hand over handwriting samples in connection with a forged title transfer. Rossi, sources say, has already hired former State's Attorney Ed Hanrahan to represent him. Jay Levine, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.